Welcome. In this video, I'm going to start on Project-06, the kayaking site, which is going to allow you to be introduced to some of the advanced features of CSS and those that are available only in CS3. Now, most browsers and workstations that people are going to have should be able to support these. You may get a few that don't if you're doing web page design long enough, but we're not really concerned about that right now. So here we want to introduce you to these features. I'm going to start on page 263. You should have already had your site set up. The first video shows you how to do that. So if you've not watched it yet, you want to go back and do that. So I'm going to open up the index file. And it tells us to turn off live view. And I'll go strictly into design. It's okay looking site so far. And actually, this is going to be very similar to the project design that I'm going to set up for you, only I will have some added features onto you. But you can see this does have a header, has navigation, and then it has a content area. So that is 263. And so we're going to look in the CS Designer, and you see that there's attached selectors in there. And some of the things that you're going to need to do is a little bit tricky in terms of selecting. So you want to make sure that you're very, very, very careful in what you're doing. If you only see one style, then just click on All, and that will give you everything that you want over here. So in the design pane, it tells us to select the 4 paragraphs immediately after the H1 element. So again, I'm going to select it here in design view and go into code view, and you can see that normally it does not select everything. So you can see it has not selected the 4 paragraphs. So I'm just going to go back in. There's different ways to select. I'm just going to do it this way in there. Then I'm going to go and I'm going to click and go back to design. I'm going to click on insert. I'm doing it this way. You can do it from the design panel as well. And I want to insert an article. Now remember, an article is no different than a header, navigation, main, aside, section, or footer. It just makes sense to name them. They're all just fancy names for what is called a div. So I'm going to click on article here. And then it wants us to wrap around a section. Now notice it gives us a chance to do a class and an ID. So this is number 8. And one thing I want to read for you is at the bottom of page 264, number 8, it says, remember, any given ID can be used only once per page. The ID list any unused IDs that have been defined in the active HTML file and its related CSS. So if you click on the IDs over here, it should list all of the IDs that you want. Intro. So that was number there. It tells us that the content is not there, so we're going to use intro in there. So we'll take that and click on OK. And boom. Notice it went to the side on the left. And if the look over here in the styles page, you should see the reason why it did that. So we're going to find intro, which is right here. Notice we have a float left. We have a width of 250 pixels, and the font size is 1.2 M, which means it's 20% higher or bigger than what the normal font size is, whatever that happens to be in this particular case. So we'll go back to the design view. And then we're going to select the remaining text in a paragraph beginning with do I need and just before the footer element. Now, one of the things that I believe is a mistake in the book is it's missing a tag. So we're going to go in here after do I need. We're going to go all the way down here. And I'm selecting over here just before the footer element. Now, the problem with that is if you select a section, that's not going to give us what you want. You want to wrap around. The section should end just before the footer. So do not include the section in there. And then what we're going to do is we're going to insert another article, and this time we're going to give it a tag of FAQS. So I'm going to go to Insert. I'm going to go to Article. I'm going to click on ID, FAQS. Now notice that the other one does not appear because we've already used it. Click on OK. And boom, let's go in Design so you can see what we have over here. So that is number 9 and number 10. Tells us to save all our files. And we're going to add rounded corners to an element. And you can do this for pictures as well, but rounded corners is very easy just by using a border radius. Usually, if you want something totally rounded, circular, you're going to use 25%. We really don't want to do that. So we're going to go into live view because you will not be able to see the effects in design view. So we're going to go to and click on the home link right over here. And we want to make sure that we're choosing the nav over here. And it's going to give us an option here. It wants us to first hold the Alt key down, and it gives us all of the options that are available, all the code that's there. So when something isn't working right, here's a perfect way for you to find out what's going on without having to go into the actual CSS file. And then it wants us to disable this little star indicator. It looks like a ship's wheel. So click on that, and you won't see the little star up there. That can get very annoying, but that will take care of it. So that took care of move our mouse over the code navigation. And then we're going to click on the code link in the code navigator, which is right here. So we can actually go to the code just by clicking on this. And that takes care of it here. So the next thing it's going to do is we want to go to the very end of the last selector of the navigation, which is up top here. Now, personally, I would do it within the CSS designer. However, let's do it by the way the book does. Less typing, less chance of making mistakes. So I'm going to hit the Enter key here. And then I'm going to start typing border. And as I type, you can see that it's going to select what I can find. Going to hit the -R. And now we want a border radius. Going to hit the Enter key. And you can see on the bottom of page 267 a little diagram of what a border radius does. And we're going to put in 10 pixels. That will give the top, right, left, and bottom these dimensions. Make sure that you always add the semicolon at the end. For the last one, it really doesn't matter, but if you want to add something towards it, you'll have to do it. Now, as soon as we do this, notice how this now looks like it's beveled in there. You did not do a thing. That's good. So this is a good time to save everything. And we'll go back into our source code over here. I'm on page 269, and we're going to define a background color. Now, normally we use a hex code beginning with a number sign and then 6 hexadecimal digits. You can also use RGB. The hex sign is in top of page 269 and shows you, for instance, FF0066. Remember, you must use the number sign. That tells the compiler that it is a hexadecimal number. So we're going to use the RGB values, but the new one allows you to add what is called an alpha. Alpha is nothing more the amount of transparency. If you have a 1, then there is completely, that's like a white piece of paper. If you have a 0, then it's see-through. As you get down from 0 and drop it down, you can see more and more. So whatever's underneath it, you'll be able to see that. So the index is open. We're in live view. And then in the code selector, decide the existing value for the background property. So we're going to go into the style CSS over here. and we're going to change the nav. Now notice we have the background already has FFF, so we're going to be changing that background color. So what it wants us to do is type in RGBA. I'm on 270, number 3. So I need to get rid of this FFS and the number sign. So I'm going to type in RGBA. And then these are decimal numbers. By the way, in case you're not aware of it, 255 is FF in hexadecimal. So we're going to do in 255, 255. Notice, make sure you have a comma. 255, which is pure white. And then I'm going to put in a 1.0 just to show you what's going to transpire when I do things over here. And basically, not a real lot. But now I'm going to change it from 0.1 to 0.6. By the way, it's totally clear now because it's 0. So now I'm going to put 0.6. And boom. Now you can see some of the background is showing through. I am not normally a big fan of this, but again, these are the options that are available. Every single site is totally different, so you want to make sure that you're using good judgment in. Now we're going to do the same thing for the content selector. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to copy this so I don't have to type all that stuff. I've decided to choose the semicolon as well. So we now need to find content over here, and here it is right over here. So I'm just going to change all this here. And then I'm going to change it to a 0.8. But notice how you can see all this stuff in the background showing through. So let's change it to 0.8. And now it's a slightly different color. I'm going to save everything. And that's all for this video. I'll pick up on page 271 where we create multiple columns of text, and then we'll go into web fonts. So everybody, have a wonderful day.